Hey everybody, it's Bat Merc. Today I'm going to be reviewing 1994's The Crow, directed by Alex Proyas. This movie is a really good movie, man. It's one of the first really good comic movie movies. Just to give you a little background information, it's basically um, whenever like a person gets killed or murdered, and a crow will come back, a mystical crow, a supernatural crow will come back and bring the victim back, and basically reincarnate the victim, and then they give him powers to basically set the wrong things right and go back and extract the revenge. They make him basically invulnerable. So there's different Crow comics, different storylines, but the one with the movie with starring Brandon Lee from 1994, he's a rock and roll guy, and it's during the 90s, and he gets murdered. Him and his girlfriend on or fiance on Halloween night, and the Crow brings him back a year later, and he gets his revenge. Yeah, I think this is one of the best revenge movies ever. Just a really solid movie. We can get into the movie now. A lot of spoilers. Basically, the movie starts out just like that. It's a Halloween. They're at a homicide. It's got Ernie Hudson in it. He's a cop in there, and he's investigating the murder of Eric Draven, played by Brandon Lee, and his fiance. Yeah, and you see the crew of people that killed him. A bunch of dudes. They're a crazy gang of guys. A guy from the Warriors. I forgot his name, but the character's T-Bone, and then there's also there's a Fun Boy and Tintin. A bunch of funny characters in there. But yeah, he goes after all of them. Basically taking them all out. When he comes back from the dead, he paints his face up like a clown, kind of, or a mime, and just wears like all black, really gothic. Looks really cool. And he just starts picking these guys off in this like big like gothic city. I believe it's supposed to take place in Detroit. Um, Eventually, he takes all the guys out, and he makes his way up to the top of the food chain, and it's the main bad guy. I mean, it's like, it looks like his sister. They're like, I don't know, they're like together or something like that. It's like some like, I don't know, family inbreed stuff or something like that. But anyways, he's like kind of like a pimp warlock, straight up. Like, I don't know if he's a pimp, but he's definitely like a warlock sorcerer, gang like leader. It's pretty crazy. His name's Top Dollar, played by Michael Wincott, and he's really cool. The guy, he's really cool, like voice actor too, and the '90s actor. He was in like, the Count of Monte Cristo. He was also in Robin Hood, Prince of Thieves, the Three Musketeers. He's in a lot of those like swashbuckling movies. He's got a really crazy voice. He also does the video game Darksiders. He plays Death, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. But yeah, back to the story. Brandon Lee comes back. He gets all of his comeuppance. He gets his revenge. He takes out Top Dollar, and he meets up with his lady, and that's basically the movie. The reason why I like this movie so much, though, again, I think it's the best revenge movie I've seen. Like the top of my head, the way he goes after everybody and just takes them out, and kind of like some of the times he tortures them, like haunts them and scares them, like kind of like Batman. I really like that. The color tone of this movie is really close to the comic book. It has like a black and white feel. It's not in black and white, but it has a lot of black and white tones. Whenever there is color on screen, it really pops and looks cool. They also use the special effects. They use a lot of bigatures for all the cars and the gothic architecture, and the eyeball knows that it's a tangible object on the screen. It's not computer generated. And I'm really big on practical effects, so I really like that about the movie. The soundtrack is like probably the best soundtrack of all time for a movie. As far as bands that are on there, you got Rage Against the Machine, you got Nine Inch Nails, you got Stone Temple Pilots, Henry Rollins Band. I mean, the list goes on. And then they incorporate a lot of the songs from there in the movie, The Cure, just to name a few. The score in this movie is really good too. It has a lot of like gothic, choruses and choirs and stuff of that nature. Danny Elfman would have done a really cool soundtrack to this. Maybe they could hit him up for the reboot, because they're going to do a reboot one day. But it seems like that whenever they try to do it, if it doesn't go through. It's almost like there's a curse on this movie. They probably don't need a reboot. This is probably the one movie I can think of that doesn't need a reboot, but I'd still like to see one. Jumping back to why I like the movie a lot. I like the villain, Top Dollar, played by Michael Wincott. Again, a really cool actor. Ernie Hudson, you got one of the Ghostbusters in here. He's like the best. Like, he's like the supporting role of the cop going around helping out Eric Draven. They make a cool team. Then you got the supporting like mini boss Tony Todd. you know, the Candyman, he's in there. He's helping out Top Dollar. He plays a cool character in there. He's got a lot of cool one-liners, you know. Like he's telling that guy that got caught on fire, Gideon, the pawn shop guy. He's like telling him, "Oh, you burn yourself playing with matches again." It's really funny. And last but certainly not least, Brandon Lee. He's what made the movie. You know, he embodied the role. He looked cooler than the character did in the comic book, in my opinion. He just is the Crow. He is Eric Draven. So it's just kind of like, it's kind of hard to like really, you know, really top this stuff. You know, just the way he moves around, the way he looks, the mannerisms, the way he delivers his lines. It's really cool. And again, this is Metal Movies and Brewskis. This movie has a very metal feel to it. The little guitars like solo and verse that he plays towards the end of the movie on the roof, it's really cool imagery, and he just smashes the guitar. It's, you know, it's awesome. It's fucking metal. There's some cool like little things that the bad guys do in there. They're like taking shots of bullets, you know, like just doing badass shit. That's pretty weird little scene, you know. And there's also a scene in there where he's got this lady that's like a drug abuser. She's like addicted to, I don't know if she's addicted to heroin or morphine or something like that, and he like squeezes all the morphine out of her arms, you know, and tells her to go home basically and take care of her kid. That was a really cool scene to see. And also yeah, it's like, it was cool. Like I remember watching this as a kid. Like there's these cool scenes where the crows just run on the roofs, you know, like it's just awesome to see that when you see superheroes or just comic characters running on roofs, you know. It looks kind of cool. Like, and I remember when I was a kid, I used to run on roofs, you know, like the Crow, up and down the streets and all over town. It was a cool movie. I really love how all the death scenes, the Crow or Brandon Lee or Draven, what have you, leaves a symbol of the Crow behind. So like in one scene, he, you know, leaves like a bunch of knives in a dude, and then another one, he takes a guy out. He leaves it's like a big fire bird on the ground, a big fire crow, and then there's another one where he leaves like a, I don't know, he leaves a painted blood crow on the wall, and it's just, I don't know, it's pretty creative. There's also like a really awesome like sword fight at the end of the movie that's like epic. You know, this movie's got everything. It's got everything you can think of. It's got like the cool set design. It's got cool makeup. It's got cool characters. It's got a sword fight. It's got a katana scene. It's got gunfights in it. It's got a car chase. It's basically got everything you'd ever want in a movie, like a comic movie. You know, if you love it like Batman at all, you'd love this movie. Back to the comic book. Yeah, it was written by James O'Barr. From what I understand, his wife was actually murdered by a drunk driver, and that's what inspired him to write this book. So it's, you know, it's got some deep emotions driven behind this project, and that's probably why it's such a good book. Obviously, I definitely recommend the comic book too. Pick that up; it's a classic. And I think now a Crow character, I don't know if it's Draven or who it is, but there's a Crow crossover right now with Hack and Slash, so you could pick that up. I haven't read it yet. Also, there's a character that in the deleted scenes, I believe in the book too, I forgot about, called the Skull Cowboy. I'm waiting for them to maybe release another version of the movie with him in it. That would be really cool. But yeah, definitely. This right here is a little fan art I drew of the movie. I don't know, I just got inspired and draw Draven on a big crow, a little black and white, and this movie, it's definitely one of my favorites. I would recommend anybody to check it out. I'm gonna have to give this one for sure 2 horns up. And as always, folks, thanks for watching. Hit that like button, subscribe. We got daily content here on Metal, Movies, and Brewskis. Good night, everybody.